Hello again, YouTube. I'm Josh. I'm so excited to be back, and today we are making my first video on some plant things. And I thought, what would I want to know about plants when I first started? So today I'm going to take you through some of the plants I recommend for beginners that are both plants that are, I call them showers or talkers. They're plants that tell you when they need water. So if you're new to plants and you forget to water, or you're scared about when to water, or how do I know when to water my plant, these plants will tell you. And then I also have plants that are more hardy, that can kind of withstand you potentially forgetting to water and them not telling you when they need it. So let's jump right in. For some of these plants, I have the actual plant or one of the types of plants with me, so I will show them. Some of them I'll be inserting some clips of plants I have in my house that I didn't want to bring over. And then some of them I will pop photos in if I don't currently own the plant, or maybe haven't owned the plant and I'm just basing this off of what I've recommended and seen thrive in another friend's place. So let's go ahead and we'll start with the showers. So plants that tend to change the way they look when they're in need of assistance, ideally watering. So the first and probably the easiest plant that you can probably find everywhere is a pothos, which is just, a lot of people will call them devil's ivy. It's just a vining aroid that can come in many different colors. This is just the plain green one. Actually, I think it might be one that's got a little gold in it somewhere, but I've had this plant now for almost 3 years, and it lives in my bathroom where it's quite dark. And how I know to water it is the leaves will literally, so you can see how they're kind of springy. If I pull on it, it jumps up. They don't do that. They'll kind of just be like drooping and hanging. So that's when I know to water it. So yeah, I would say pothos, a great option if you're first starting out, because they tell you when they need to be watered. And if you do happen to not listen and kill one, you can probably get one for $5 in your local currency. The next plant I don't actually have, but I have owned before, and that is, I'll put a little photo here, a Photonia. A Photonia is a very dramatic plant. It will try to convince you that it has fully left this earth and is one with the universe now. It's not, it just needs some water. So they really droop. I'll put up photos of, you can see it like at full stance and then also drooping. A very great plant. If you're looking at some of the colorful begonias of the world, when you're first getting into plants and you like the way they look, don't start with the begonia, it's a bad idea. Start with the Photonia instead. You'll get some of the colorful foliage that you're looking for, but you're going to get something that is a little more communicative, and it also isn't likely to get a whole bunch of other issues that begonias can have. So Photonia. Our next plant is the peace lily, which I do have a type of peace lily here. I have a domino peace lily. So you can see some of the foliage will get a little more kind of creamy or white, depending on where it is. It can look a little more speckled, or you can get kind of chunks in there, but a regular peace lily that's green is just fine. They are a flowering plant. You can see mine has actually got a flower coming up here. They flower when they're doing well. So if you're like me, I chop the flowers. You can keep the flowers if you like flowers. I would rather focus on a bigger, bushier plant, so I chop the flowers. But these, just like the Photonia, are very dramatic. The leaves will completely droop down and it will act like the end of days is near, and then you'll water it and like 3 hours later you'll walk by and it'll look just fine. So peace lilies are a great option for that. You'll see these a lot in hospitals or doctor's offices or libraries or things, because it's honestly a very good plant for someone who doesn't know how to care for plants, because it's like, help me, I need water. And you're like, oh, okay. So it's super visual. Okay, the next plant we have that is a bit of a shower. This one shows in 2 different ways. That is a spider plant. So you can see I've got mine here in a little macrame hanger in a pot. It's just in a cover pot, so I can take it out to water it. I tend to just put the water right in, but these will both droop. The foliage here will actually kind of just start to hang a little bit flatter, and it'll look less springy. So you can see these will kind of spring up if I run my hand over them. It won't do that as much if it needs water. And then the leaves themselves that are green, this one has a little bit of like a stripe through it, will start to look more translucent and more pale. So you'll know freshly, like the day or 8 or 10 hours after you water it, how green is green and then how bouncy is bouncy. So this is a really great plant if you're just starting out. I will say, both with this and the peace lily, they can be a little picky with the type of water. So depending on how hard your water is, the mineral content in it, depending on what water you use, you can get, and you can see some of my older leaves here, the tips will go kind of oh my God, that's like the worst. I'll show it up there. The tips will go brown and a bit crispy. I water mine just with filtered water. I have a Brita filter. Oh, excuse me, dog hair on my lip. I have a Brita filter with just water in my laundry room that I just use for plants that are picky. Yes, that's how you know I love plants. And our last shower would be this, which is a Tenanthe. So mine is a golden mosaic Tenanthe. This plant is in the Calathea family, so I would say proceed with caution. Maybe this isn't your first plant you get, but like a few months in, you maybe try a Tenanthe. They come in some beautiful coloring, a lot of really gray, silvery ones. So I'd say, you know, before you go the route of getting some plants that are maybe a little bit harder, try a Tenanthe if you want a little more challenge. The leaves on this are quite springy. They do kind of move throughout the day. So if you've seen some time-lapse videos of this, the leaves kind of up and down to, they're, I guess, known as prayer plants. So they will kind of move on their own and change their shape throughout the day, depending on what light they're in. But with this plant, the leaves themselves are quite flat, almost paddle-like. They will curl on the edge and curl down. So you'll get a pretty visual cue when this starts to curl up. It's time to water it. All right, let's move over to the plants that are more hardy. So if you have been not listening to the signs that your plants are saying, help me, I might need some water, these are probably plants for you. First up, we have the Aglaonema. So this, I think, is an Aglaonema, like pink Dalmatian, Valentine something. I don't remember the species exactly, but I've had this plant now for 3 years. And I have to say, it has lived through some challenges. I have had it in bad soil. I've not watered it for like a month at a time. And it's here. This one I feel like bridges the gap where it will start to wilt and droop and show you when it's time to be watered, but at the same time, it will also withstand honestly being ignored a bit. If you like the bright coloring, you're gonna wanna give it more light, and that probably means you're gonna wanna give it more water. So just keep that in mind. But if you're okay with it getting a little more green, like some of these leaves you can see on the bottom, you can put it in a darker area and probably water it even less. Our next plant that's a little bit more hardy, you can see here is already peeking into the frame, is a snake plant. So these, I believe, are now Dracaenas. They used to be Sansevieria, so you'll probably see it called either. This one I have here is a moonshine, so it's almost this kind of silvery you can see on the new leaves. This is actually a pup that I grew off of my big plant that I've had for February will be 3 years. So I've had it a long time, but I will say this is a great plant if you have an area you need to put a plant, but you're also like, I'm probably gonna forget it's there sometimes. They can withstand, not love. They can tolerate lower light, but they do like brighter light. But this is one that it will show you when it needs to be watered. The leaves here will actually almost get rippling or wrinkling to them. But unless you're looking at it, you're probably not likely to see compared to something drooping. Now, what kind of hardy recommendations would we have for plants if we were not talking about the ZZ plant? So I actually have a little like trough bucket thing here that I've got 2 ZZ plants in and a ZZ Raven, so this darker foliage one here you can see. This just sits in my living room. These plants are really unique. I'm setting this down and talking at the same time because they have quite a big tuber system in the roots. So there's these essentially like wells, like a camel, that hold water in them, so they can go a long time without being watered. So I water mine maybe once a month, sometimes every 3 weeks in the summer. Okay, our next plant in the more hardy, sturdy plants is actually a little more fun. I don't know how to say the name of this species, so I'm gonna put a little video here that I took of Google saying it.
Escananthus.
Okay, so we all know how to say it now. So this is a lipstick plant. So it's these curly leaves, really beautiful, kind of, I'd say bushy, sprawling plant that puts out all these new points of growth. This one I have had for, I'd say almost 2 years now, and it lives actually outside of my house. I'll put a little video up showing you where it is. So I'm in an apartment and it lives outside in the like common area of the apartment, just outside of my front door. And it gets quite warm out there because there's no AC and it's fine. These like to dry out. So I would say, you know, I water mine once a month. It will start to show you when it's time to water, but at the same time, if you don't water, it's pretty fine. Mine, I'd say, I'm gonna try to back up so you can see just how big it is. I neglect mine. I will be the first person to say I totally neglect mine. I mean, it's not even in my house now. So if that says any sign of how much I neglect it and how much it's still loving life, yeah, I would say a lipstick plant. This is the Black Pagoda lipstick plant. So the underside of the leaves is really, really beautiful There you can see there. So fun plant if you want something a little different than a snake plant or a ZZ plant, but one that I think is probably just as hardy. Okay, our last hardy plant, probably veering on the side of maybe not as hardy, but for me it's definitely been pretty hardy, pretty tolerable to being ignored or neglected, and that is actually, I know, a fern. This is a rabbit's foot fern. I think it's called something else in some other countries. I believe here in Australia it's just a rabbit's foot fern, but if you're in the US or somewhere else, it may be called something else. But if you love like really ethereal, dainty, like feathery little leaves that look like they grow like on a forest floor, this is your plant. It does grow these like little fuzzy spots that the leaves grow out. You can see here where there's actual leaves branching out of it. I've had this plant for over 3 years now, and it used to live in my kitchen here, and we've had it in my apartment for 2 years now. Used to live right over my kitchen. I moved it to my bathroom maybe, I don't know, a month or two ago, and my bathroom is it sits about 4 meters, so almost 16 or 20 feet from a window. Maybe not that far, maybe 3 meters. I don't know, my meters to feet is bad, sorry y'all. It sits quite far back. I'll put a little video in showing where it is in my bathroom. Hello, welcome to my shower and my toilet. But yes, you can see where it sits in there. It's not getting a lot of light, and I have to say over the last 2 months, it has just like exploded with new growth. So I think it's loving the lower light in there. So a great option if you want one that can just leave it and put it in a darker room and not have to worry about it too much. I water mine, it's still in the same soil that I bought it in, and I normally don't do that, but it's happy, so I'm just leaving it. I've tortured this thing. I've gave it some bad conditions over the years, but now I water it maybe twice a month on a good month, but otherwise once a month, and it's loving life. I mean, look at all the lighter new growth here. So rabbit foot fern, definitely a little different, but I'd recommend it. Okay, y'all, that is our plants that I'd recommend you're first trying out plants. Go with something more sturdy, more hardy, or something that tells you, hey, I need some help. Please care for me. If you have any suggestions or other plants that you'd recommend for beginners, leave them in the comments below. As always, it has been great chatting with you, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next video. Give me a follow on TikTok or Instagram, where I'm sharing planty content every day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.